Tim Osman used to say it.
You should say what?
He used to just say, "Umbra penumbra, dude."
Okay. No idea. Never heard that before.
Did you see the Tim Osman and what's it video?
I did.
Tim Osman.
I did.
Yeah. I didn't watch the
Made
whole
me
thing.
feel weird.
It was kind of they were both like trying to one up each other for like how long they've been in the community and stuff. And because Tim Osman was like, I've been here since before your time, dude.
Yeah.
And then Witsit was talking about how many viewers he has and all that kind of stuff. It's like, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah. I don't think Witsit realized who he was, to be honest.
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, of course he didn't.
What happened? Did he show up in front of him, like in person, or what happened?
Yeah. There was like a showdown with Timmy Osman and Witsit. Yeah, it's really good.
I love Tim, dude. Timmy's my favorite baller.
Easy. Easy.
Dude. Wow. Earl Merle is in the building. I don't know where your stance is today.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been one of these people that I can't make a claim as to what the Earth is, but I'm comfortable that it's not. I don't have the full quid, if you will. Like, there's so much more to the story and the puzzle that I don't have. And that's a huge red flag in itself. And if reality was that easy to understand, I mean, besides the maths, it seems all quite straightforward, right? Everything about this place is just, it's like a stage made for us. But I just feel like I'm in a much bigger game. That's why I've always been open to the Pete Shea dialogue. I don't care if people think he's mentally ill or what. Like, he's a human being. He's here. He sees it through his eyes. Everybody's got their say. But
he's got me believing Will Smith is Obama.
I just hope before we get out of here, we're a bit closer to knowing where we really are. That'd be good.
We've already been very, very close, and we're going to continue being close.
Well, you know what I think it's like, Merle, in that regard, just to bring up just to have click back, is the idea that it's like, I always thought of it like, if you were on the street and you're walking by a bum and he was pointing at $100 bill on the ground that you could pick up, are you not going to look where he's pointing just because he's a bum and therefore maybe miss the $100 on the ground, kind of a thing? It doesn't matter who's pointing in the direction of knowledge. You know what I mean? Like, PJ, a lot of folks out there, man.
I gotta say, if a bum points to $100 bill, I'm gonna think there's some ulterior motive.
Yeah, there's like shit on it or something like that. It's like they used to do CKY. They switch it
to knock you down from behind.
And that makes total sense because Gummy's already told us he only comes in here to get a rise out of his ego. You're over there perpetrating a governmental myth you can't verify. It would make sense that both of you would be so skeptical about that, but then think that there's moon rocks, even though that we can prove that those moon rocks mostly are fake. But so I'm not surprised.
Bum is pointing at $100 bill. There's no reason to pick that up, man.
Towards the allegorical $100 bill. I'm not surprised at all that you would say that.
Dude, it's a bum. First of all, if there's a bum and you're going to take $100 bills from a bum, like, when are you supposed to give money to bums?
And also, these space rocks that are mostly fake.
I get it. I understand you guys are such materialists. You can't
as long as there's one real moon rock,
the world of allegory. No, I understand. You're like Carterized, limited, if you will. But the idea is that this is just an allegory. So the idea is that if you were to point, if somebody, that you didn't think was whatever, was actually pointing you to $100, you know what I mean, or knowledge or whatever, like the point is that you're either going to get it. And also, I don't put it past, like Kosho, I don't think you're unintelligent, and Gummy Bear, nor do I think the same for you. I'm just saying that it's the idea of like, granted, you're going to consider the source of wherever knowledge is coming from, but also at the same time, you might miss something grand because of your preconception about something. And that's not like wisdom is to be able to look at life and get the good from it. Right. You know what I mean? But if you're going to avoid it just because merely you could tell that if you could tell that there's a ruse, like, here's what's interesting is that you guys will be the first one to dismiss the guy who's a bum, who's telling you to look over there, but then accept a whole bunch of other premises based on someone. I mean, it's
what about the kid that tells you there's a ghost in its closet?
Hold on, man.
Are you gonna think there's a ghost in the closet until you go check?
What if the kid's right?
Exactly, that's the kind of attitude that I ridicule. What if the kid's right? There is a ghost in the closet.
Exactly.
It's gonna kill you.
Well, that would be something. That's like you saying that we went to the moon and you better believe me. It sounds like a little child being like, "There's a ghost in my closet," and they went to Mars too. right?
No, so
why
the
would I believe?
equivalent,
Why would I
the
believe an
equivalent would
ignorant
be,
kid who doesn't know what they're talking about? Like, for
if you
instance, the
want to
other day,
draw,
you didn't know about dark matter, but then you try to act like you do. It's like a little child trying to tell me that they know
Wait,
that there's a ghost
hold
in my
on.
closet.
Hold on,
I
because
Gummy
don't
bear's young.
That's
you're
the best
making,
analogy I've
hold
heard
on,
you
Issa,
come up
you're making a lot of claims here. First of
yeah,
all,
and you won't stop.
there was nothing
Not
about me
being
not
young.
knowing what dark matter was. I was correcting someone who was
Oh, you're
bunching
upset
dark.
now because you
Let
can't
me
get your little
finish
ego.
speaking,
No,
Issa.
dude, you're getting wrecked, and your little ego
So,
can't handle it, right?
Issa,
That's
let
all.
me
Do not
finish.
stop
It's a
talking, dude.
The
psychological
fact
thing.
that you can't let me speak shows that you're getting wrecked because you can't even let me get the words out because you're afraid of them. So let me speak to show that you're a man. Okay. So I was correcting
No,
someone
do
who was
25
conflating.
push-ups because you don't sound like you could do
Let
25
me
push-ups.
finish
You're a
so that
man.
you show you're not scared. Let me finish. The person was conflating dark energy and dark matter. I corrected him on it. That was not me not knowing dark matter. That was him conflating two things as being the same thing. Now, when it comes to
Right?
the
No.
analogy,
This is just
go
like
ahead.
you being the kid who's telling me that there's a ghost in the closet, dude.
Okay.
That's all.
Now
That's
I will
my.
go back to that. I will go back to that thing. Now, if you want to compare the ghost in the closet to
Yeah,
the moon
explain dark
landings,
matter to me, and then make it sound like you're not talking about a ghost in the
so
closet.
when it comes to the moon landing that you compare to the ghost in the closet, the only way you would make it analogous is if you also have several third parties that have used measuring tools and
Check it
measure
out.
the ghost in the
Now
closet,
you sound
and
like
then
a
they
bunch of
bring
kids at a
out
birthday
pieces of the
party.
ghost from the closet, and then we test all these and we take pictures of the ghost in the closet and then bring all of these things back, and you're still going to deny the ghost in the closet. That's the only
So
way
now
you
you
can make
admit
it
that your argument
analogous.
is okay. Wait, hold on. So let me just get this straight. You admit you're like a child in the closet trying to prove that a ghost exists, right?
No, I'm saying that you making that analogy is the child
You're
in the
so
closet.
fucking stupid, dude. It's unreal.
Okay, first of all, I don't know why you take completely straw manning, at least me, because I don't know why you're going on with the analogy, but it doesn't matter. First of all, if a bum tells me about $100 bill, I'm not going to take it. But if a flat earther, who the analogy is about, or somebody else is giving information, I don't disregard it just because it came from Pete Shea or Marla or whoever. There's information, there's stuff I've
That's
learned
why
from
I
these
clarified that
people,
with you.
and
Yeah,
there's
that crazy guy.
the analogy is not all around bad. So, but I speak for myself.
No,
Do you
Kosho,
think
I
I'm
don't put
being?
it past you to like, you're not going to walk by wisdom, man. I really think you're an intelligent person. Like, I have a high regard and respect for you, bro. Just so you know, I don't think you would dismiss
I think
somebody
Gummy Bears,
based on their
Gummy Bears,
background or something.
yeah. I've talked to Gummy Bear about lots of stuff. I think he's, if not
No, I'm
more,
just here to trigger. I'll tell you what, I'm
more.
just triggering Gummy Bear because he's already admitted he comes in here to get an egotistical rise out of trying to, dismiss flat earthers and be a dick. So, like, my thing is that, like, I just like the idea that he's accepted the premise that he's a child at a birthday party trying to convince me that there's a ghost in the closet with pictures, Kosho. How fucking retarded is your
Well,
side
the
right now?
thing
Come on.
is, the fact that you think that all of that is what
So
I
no,
am
let me,
about
no, I really
means that
want us
you
to live
don't
out this
understand
analogy.
sarcasm.
Okay. So you're at a birthday party with your friends trying to convince me there's a ghost in the closet. Go.
When I said that I'm only here to get a rise out of people was
Well,
a statement made with sarcastic intentions. I wasn't
Okay.
seriously saying that. It was someone
All right, but
trying
now,
to back
Gummy, we
someone
got
in
to
a
be
corner.
serious about our analogy. You're at a birthday party trying to convince me there's a ghost in the closet with pictures with your friends. Ready, go.
Okay. I bring back ectoplasm from the closet. Do you believe me now?
Go on.
Stop, Gummy.
What
Kill
else?
me.
What else
Do you
got?
believe me now?
No.
I
What
bring
else you got?
back
Hold on,
pictures of
hold on.
ghosts. Do you
I'm
believe me
gonna
now?
ask you a question. I'm gonna ask you a question. Okay, you bring me something. Okay, you bring me ectoplasm from the thing.
Yeah.
Should I maybe doubt it because I'm dealing with children trying to argue that there's a ghost in the closet?
No, I've brought you evidence, physical evidence. You shouldn't doubt me because
Legitimate ectoplasm.
I'm the person bringing it to you. You should
The
look
real
at what I
fucking deal.
brought you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but you're just
I
a
don't know. It's
kid.
like
You're
that's how
just
I
a
feel. When
kid.
people
Why
argue
should we
about
take you
ectoplasm.
seriously? You're just a kid.
Well, the claim isn't that the kid is doing something. The claim is the kid has brought something to you. Look at that thing. Can you explain what it is? No, it seems like ectoplasm in every single way. Do you think
It
a
might be
kid
snot.
produced ectoplasm for you?
He might have blown his nose.
That's an awful weird
Oh,
looking
that's so good, bro.
looking snot. This is some kind of snot that's never been observed in anyone's nose before. That's weird. Maybe it
You're
is a
weird.
snot. Maybe it's ectoplasm, Merle.
Mm-hmm.
Can you
Maybe.
explain it in any other
But
way
maybe
other
the
than
kid.
saying maybe it's
Exactly.
snot?
Well, maybe the kid's correct. Maybe the kid actually
Exactly.
has a sample.
Yeah.
So what do
So
we
why
do
are you
now?
going, it's just snot, when you can look at the sample instead?
So the sample is verified and it is ectoplasm.
Yeah.
So now what?
So now you should believe that there was a ghost there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the kid
And
was
now,
right.
Yeah,
And we
the
should
kid was
listen
right.
to the kids.
And
we
we
should
should listen to
kids.
the kid because the kid was correct.
Mhm.
There you go. Now make the analogy to NASA and bringing back moon rocks. There you go. Moon exists. The kid is NASA.
Well, what about we can be gullible and be misled, and it could happen on both sides.
You're going to be
So some
misled by a
people could-
kid, Merle? You're being
Well, some
misled by a
people could-
kid? Can you
some
not
people could
intellectually
believe-
outclass a kid?
Well, some people could believe in a globe, right? And some people could
Are you-
believe in a flat Earth, and neither of those two things might be true because they're concepts.
Are you saying that you're not intellectually superior to a kid? That they're able to outclass you, outsmart you?
Sure, a kid could outclass any adult because they're more in touch with themselves and they haven't been socially conditioned yet.
Okay. So kids are smarter than you. Thanks for agreeing.
Kids are just free as
Yeah.
they can be. And they're honest most of the time, kids. They'll let you know what they're thinking.
If a kid talks to you, they tell you that you're old and dumb.
Yeah,
If
but
a
that
kid
doesn't mean
talks-
they're right. I can just say the same thing to them, just put young on it.
You've been intellectually outclassed. They
Yeah,
have
well, talk to the
superiority
creator,
over
not
you in
me.
intelligence.
I don't make people, dude.
That's
It's not my
unfortunate.
job.
You know that show, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader?
Mhm.
Are you scared of that show? Because I know you'd lose.
Not really. Not really.
Well, you've admitted yourself that you'd easily be outsmarted.
I'm not scared of kids. Kids aren't
You're
scary.
not scared. Okay.
No. You could have
That's
an army of
good.
kids. You're all idiots.
That's good then. At least you'll accept it when the new generation of smart kids will
That's right. I've been trying to help your
take over the
generation
world.
for quite a while now, and you don't
Oh, you
listen. You
have?
think you're right.
Did you create a
think you're
great
all right.
economy for us? Did you
Oh,
create
we're
a
in
great
school.
economy for us?
It's all about school. Do your homework. Stay home.
Did you create a great economy for us and good education? Because
Yeah.
I'm doubting that.
Why?
Well,
wouldn't be
I'm not so sure
make
your
it more
generation was
practical.
very good at that.
Yeah, I'd teach people how to live, not just learn theoretical bullshit
Well,
that they'll never
you do
implement or
understand.
apply.
You do
And they'll
understand
forget it
that
after a
your
couple of years.
generation fucked up the economy, fucked up education, fucked up so
No, we
many.
didn't. How?
Oh.
We haven't done any of that.
No, of course
It was
not.
all built there for us.
Yeah, the economy is all great and thriving, and education
Yeah,
is.
they had World War II, Gummy Bear, and then it just went gangbusters. They started building.
Yeah.
That's what they
And
did.
Is there anything
And,
such
and
as
everybody
mental?
fucked. And they had the baby boom,
Oh,
right? Because
okay.
they'd won the war. And the American soldiers went out and they had everyone they just had a
Yeah,
frenzy, right? And now we're all here. It's not our fault.
But you're part of that.
Of course. But I'm at least I'm doing something about it.
What are you doing about it, Meryl?
I'm raising awareness.
Is Gummy not part of it? How old are you, Gummy?
I'm 23.
Right, so you're the most naive, self-centered generation that's destroying actually everything right now with your gender wokeness, dude. Right?
And what parents raised us to be like this, and what grandparents created the scenario that we live in.
Hey, no, I agree, bro. We're all dealing with a bunch of reactionary bullshit. It's not that we're all pitted against each other, but you're just as much a product of the baby boomer shit show as the rest of us. I mean, these people literally, you know what's so weird about the baby boomers is they're actually the generation that dumped their motor oil in the fucking lakes and the rivers and everything like that, destroyed fucking everything, and then are now trying to turn around on everybody and be like, you can't use all that stuff. You've got to have climate credits and and the only generation that's kind of accepting that is your generation, because you guys sound like you don't lift weights, you don't do anything physical. You've gotten a trophy since you were fucking 3 for sitting on
who
your ass.
raised us, Isa? Who
Right?
raised us? Who are our parents? Who are our grandparents?
It's just what we're
Internet.
dealing
Are
with.
we not the product of our environment?
Yeah,
Right, so are you not a product of the baby boomers?
Hey
Of course
guys,
we are.
That's
here,
my point.
here is a baby boomer. Want to spit on me?
No, it's not even you guys. It's like, actually,
Yeah.
I know really I mean, dude, think about it like this. Pot wouldn't be legal in certain places if it wasn't for the generations before. You know what I mean? Like, there's been freedom fighters, if you will, amongst every generation. But the point is that the majority of them are materialists, and they think that when they die, it's like everything just shuts off. So it doesn't matter. That's why they're so quick. That's why
Gummy Bear's inherited it all. You know what I mean? Like, it's all being built for his generation, and they just get to waltz in and get the spoils.
And use this great economy that you've prepared for us.
Well, hold on. I'll ask you this. Did you vote? Like, let's say if you're in the States, it's like, because right now you've really got two sides of the equation. You've got patriotic people and you've got globalists. And globalists want to destroy all the borders and don't understand that you need to, just like you have a house, You need to have a solid houses. You need to have solid houses to have a great community. But each house is its own thing. So each country needs to be its own thing. This is the only time in history when this globalistic bullshit has actually been coming over, where they're trying to get rid of borders, get rid of everything like that. And the only people that are following along with that idealistic shit are the masses that are, brainwashed.
You know,
believing it.
you
It's
ever
like,
heard of the hearing, two heads are better than one?
and right.
Yeah.
Right. What about
Working together is better than fighting against
Right,
each
right.
other.
And this is my
Just
point
so
to you.
know.
And listen. So, are you for the idea of abolishing country boundaries?
No, not abolishing country boundaries. That's taking
Okay.
it too far.
Do you think globalism is better than, let's say, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to, because we're always going to be working together. You know what I mean? That's the beauty of a free market, right? But the idea is like, do you think that they should be, like, let's say, no, like, let's say if you're not from a place, should you be able to vote there?
No.
Right. Okay. So that's
But
fine.
there are some
probably
things,
agree
though.
on a bunch more than we
There
disagree
are,
on.
however, there are some things that should be a worldwide decision. So, for example, climate.
Okay, I got
Climate-related
it ready.
Yeah.
This is my question to you. Do you believe that there should be a world government?
I mean, calling it a government is not quite what I would say. I'd
Okay,
more
let's
call
say
it an alliance or a
Okay, we'll
an
call it the
agreement.
United Nations Peaceful Alliance Group.
Yeah.
Okay, do you think that they should be the ultimate arbiters of power?
Not in every aspect, but in some, especially
Well, if
when
you're
it
going
comes to
to, like,
climate.
okay, right, and that's
Like, climate is one of the big things that they
well.
would
Let
be.
me. Okay, well, I'll point out to you historically. Anytime you give a mono entity complete or some kind of power that supersedes all the other littler entities, that entity consumes all the other things through those power mechanisms. And here's the issue: is your generation thinks that that's somehow a fucking good thing. And therefore, your willingness to partake in that system that is to make an entity that would have that kind of power be in complete control, really, it makes your generation willing to partake in fascist, dictatorship. And even though you don't understand that because you think you're so fucking right, the rest of the world has to bear the burden of this generation's pathetic agreements with the previous generation's attempts to get us to that position. And as you get to totalitarianism and realize that you are just not, you're just a cog in the wheel of the thing, you'll probably be 30 and conservative and realize that you're going to have to stoke some semblance of patriotism back in your own life. Because, the problem is that this generation is so willing to give up that power and not accept responsibility of self-government. This is the difference of like American government. The idea was the self-government. No one has authority over you but you. And through the pussification of fucking men and women throughout fucking time, they have made it so where people are just willing to give up their security and their liberty, just or their liberty for a little bit of security, and that is a problem. Like if you're willing to give a little bit of power to a totalitarian worldwide government because of climate change, you're a fucking modern day fascist dictator wannabe.
But hold on. If the US government is already dictating what you do, saying that they should also dictate what other people do,
why do you think they
doesn't
dictate
affect
what I
you.
do? Why do you think they
Because you
dictate?
live in America.
I live in my body, and
In America, where you have to follow the laws.
well, there's a residence for my protection because of the fact that I have constitutional protections, and there's evil people, so they might want to take advantage of that. So there's rules and systems to protect my liberty against people who would encroach against that, right?
And how could that not exist in such a worldwide government, so to speak?
Well, it's actually all local government because each council, each town, everything in the United States has its own individual entities. It's all through
So
local individual government. So
why could we not have that? Where every country would have its own so-called state government, and then there's the total worldwide federal government.
Right, but that's
why wouldn't that be possible? What would be the
well,
problem with that?
Here's the thing, though. It could be possible, but the thing is, that system built up the way that it is, let's say here in the States, and the way that it actually is built, makes it so that the individual is actually in more authority of their life than any kind of outside agency. Even though people go along with the bullshit and accept certain premises that are not actually correct, like, whatever. Like the idea is that most people are under the impression that there's like a federal government that's the umbrella of all the other governments. But in reality, in law, all entities stem from the household outward. And the evidence for that is like the pot laws of the United States, let's say, because it was illegal for anyone to have cannabis in regards to the federal government, but the state of Colorado elected to make cannabis legal. And there was nothing that the federal government could do against that. And then in the counties, there were certain counties that are smaller than the state, and they said they didn't even want pot in their county. So, but then there was towns in those counties who actually wanted to have recreational pot and stuff like that. So those towns superseded the county government, and the county government superseded the state government, and the state government's rights superseded the federal government rights.
That's not true though.
Well,
The federal government
hold on one second.
has chosen.
Huh? Oh,
Federal
let me get to my
government through
point real quick.
Obama.
In relationship to climate change, one second. In relationship to climate change, if you were to give an entity to have authority to go from a federal position to have more authority in a local state, that would be completely antithetical to our system. And you would be a fascist for trying to do it. And anyone who went along with you would be also, in turn, a fucking fascist.
So first of all, that's what you said. Just wasn't true though. I agree with
Well, yeah,
some of what you
what's not
said.
true?
But I'm trying to tell you, dude. So there's no need to ask me.
Well, then fucking answer it.
But yeah, so the federal government through Obama decided not to be harsh on the places that were legalizing weed, but that was just a personal choice. And at any
Well, I think
point,
he
the
was
federal
joking,
government,
and he was saying
that's
it kind
fine,
of
dude.
jest
That's
because
fine.
he had
That's
no
fine.
jurisdiction.
Dude. Listen, dude. Stop
Where's
doing
his
that, man.
jurisdiction, dickhead?
Hey, listen,
Really?
you ran on for a long fucking time, dude. All right, just wait. Just hold up a second. But damn it, what was I saying? Oh yeah, but when the federal government has authority, like with the ICE and with Border Patrol and with the DEA, when they come across people selling weed, they still do something about it. And the DEA, back before Obama made that he just made that thing where he said he was going to relax on weed sellers, the DEA would go into California and fuck up the weed spots, even though they were legally selling weed in California.
Do you know
They would
why?
still go there and fucking take. Yeah, because they're the federal government's illegal. Yeah.
Okay, what gave the federal government jurisdiction in regards to those issues? Do you know?
The Civil War.
Nope, actually, it was the use of a Federal Reserve note. If you use a dollar bill, which is a federal commodity, to transport a good which is considered to be a controlled substance under the federal government, that's what grants the jurisdiction, because you're using a federal commodity to transfer goods in relationship to an entity that is a controlled substance. That's what gave them jurisdiction. It didn't take away Colorado's right to legalize pot. This is the point, and this is my issue. Is that
They always have the
as
right
regards
to
to proper jurisdiction, what's up?
Of course, they're not going to take away their right to do that, but that doesn't mean that the federal government can't exert their force on people who are illegal. It's federally illegal. They can.
Oh no, I agree. How about this,
the
dude?
force
Cops
they've been
can
doing
lie to people on the side of the road, and if you tried to bring it up in court, you could get, like you can't fight it because you have to handle your business there. But the point is that, I mean, I get it. There's a lot of corruption, and this is why I said, and I made a caveat, that anyone who tries to do that and anyone that goes along with that is a fascist trying to execute a federal issue in maybe a place they don't have jurisdiction. But like I said, with the dollars and pot, like it's a discussion I've been trying to have forever. Because if you're going to use Federal Reserve notes, that's the jurisdictional issue. But if you're just going to grow pot and trade for beans and do things like that, they have no jurisdiction, essentially.
The federal government has jurisdiction all over the country, so they couldn't try them for that in a state or county court, but they could definitely charge them in a federal court, which is where they would charge them.
Are you sure?
Absolutely. You can,
okay,
you can be arrested.
So check it out. Okay, so I love that line. Many a man has lost his life or fortune for not knowing what he thought he was sure of. And so my point is that, to some extent, if you find agreement, because remember, United States citizens are federal entities that have residence in a state. And United States citizens, for instance, are classified as enemies of the states. And they're not protected under the first 8 amendments of the federal Constitution. So you're obviously if you're limiting your scope of worldview and thinking, well, I'm just a citizen and we're all slaves, then that's to disregard the whole other aspect of life that, the good Lord created you. And you're actually in an ecclesiastical system that says, in God we trust everywhere. Gee, what's going on? But if you're going to identify as the collateral on the national debt, then you don't have anything coming anyway. But my point is that for those of us more intelligent than to do that, there is always remedies for constitutional protection as regards, the people. If you know who you are and you understand your priority, security, interest holder, but that's a complicated subject. My point is that in regards to government, you should check out Gerald Brown's Cooperative Federalism. It's one of the best books you could read. The first couple paragraphs will help you along, because a lot of what people think about government, umbrella government, federal government, and all this kind of stuff like that, is not actually true to American tradition. But through acquiescence and misinformation, people think it is, and therefore they grant jurisdiction on a case-by-case basis. That's why good attorneys are so sought after, because they seem to be able to make anything go away, because they point out the constitutional protections of their client, and if they can do it well enough, etc. But the point is that the federal government, I would say, Kosho, go read Gerald Brown, Cooperative Federalism, man. The federal government does not have authority anywhere other than
Did you say so many words to say nothing, dude? The FBI and the DEA, okay, the two people who can arrest you for federal laws anywhere in the United States.
Right?
And
They
we're
can
either
arrest. Well, how about this? I'll put it to you like this.
DEA, and where federal laws are
Are
violated by the
U.S.
FBI. They can do it
citizens?
anywhere.
All right, no, you're right. Are U.S. citizens employees of the United States?
All right, U.S. citizen employees? No,
Yeah.
I would say no.
Well, Title V, I think it's 552A, says otherwise. Look at the definitions for employee, and it's going to say United States citizen. So the United States citizen is an employee of the United States. Therefore, if a United States citizen is caught doing something against the state laws, right, then the state can hold that United States citizen accountable, and if so choosing, the federal government can come in and add compound charges or whatever they want. But the issue is that about jurisdictionally, the federal government is really limited to Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, and the territories. That's what that is. And it'll even say, and formerly Hawaii, because Hawaii became its own state, and each state is essentially its own country.
Yeah,
And this is
you
why
said I was looking up for this 55A thing that you're talking about.
it's like Title
What are you saying?
5, it's employee for United States, and it's it'll say it'll say U.S. citizen, if I'm not mistaken. But and I actually, if you really want to, because I mean, it seems it's been harder and harder to find certain info online lately. If you would like links, I could provide mad links for you. I can get them for you, and really, because I really think it's the most pertinent subject, regardless of the shape of the earth. Even like the idea is that we only have liberty to discuss these topics because of these constitutional protections. And my fear is that we're going to lose these constitutional protections because of the naivety that's incoming from these next generations that are still willing to give up absolute power to an entity that has, really no bearing or jurisdiction on them anyway. And only when people are willing to give up that little bit of liberty for a little bit of security. Well, I think we should have, passports for this, and we should have, climate credits and this, that thing. If you're going to go into that realm, then you are the generation that every generation before wanted to piss on. Because fucking, if you're going to do that, this is like what people fought against forever. What a damn shame that people would fall victim and acquiesce to a system that doesn't have the fucking authority in the first place.
I'm just reading this. Trying to read this bullshit.
Look up Maxwell v. Dow. It's case law. United States citizens are not protected under the first 8 amendments of the federal Constitution. Kosho. That's why your liberty is only given.
Maxwell v. What? I just read the last thing you said, and it didn't say what you said. I'm gonna look this up now too, I guess. But what
Maxwell. Well,
Maxwell?
the case law. No, dude. Like I said, these things are kind of hard to come by, and they're also case law and legal shit. So, they're not just readily available on Wikipedia. But Maxwell v. Dow. It's Maxwell v. DOW, and it shows if you read the in the judge's thing at the end. I believe it's that it confirmed that United States citizens are not protected under the first 8 amendments of the federal Constitution. And the issue there being is that you have these rights as a child of God, not because you're a fucking U.S. citizen. And the evidence that they think you're a child of God is that it says it on your fucking money and it says it on the courtroom wall. But that's where someone's going to come. Well, they didn't really mean that. And they didn't really, and he was just joking. But also, this information is not necessarily for the unbeliever, man. God says, man, he's going to shut your ears and close your heart, and you're going to hate this information.
Wait, and you said that this ruling says that U.S. citizens aren't protected by the first 8 amendments?
What's up? You got to remember, man, the first United States citizen was the freed slave, and they just did that so they could make them the collateral on the national debt because the South refused to pay the taxes on the first default, and so the South refused to pay the taxes, so the North took their quote unquote property and made them U.S. citizens, which made them the collateral on the national debt, which gave them collateral to print a whole new currency. And then 70 years later, they made everybody United States citizens, and they got to print a whole bunch more money as the collateral. That's why everything now is all about converting U.S. citizens into further and further domestic terrorism charges so that the states can levy the United States interest in the collateral. But
So
that's
yeah, this decision, I got to see the decision. But this decision was basically just about the this guy's case in Utah, and how much jurisdiction or how much ability the state had, with their jurisdiction based on having to comply to the Bill of Rights, and it was basically allowing them to omit, what was it? I think they used 8 jurors instead of 12 or something like that. And one of the judges, Supreme Court justices, he argued that that we just said that about the 8 amendments, but I think he was the only one who said something about it. It says his lone dissent. He argued against. He argued instead for the incorporation of the entirety of the first 8 amendments to the Constitution. But hold on, let me look more into this one. I can't tell. I gotta look at the decision. I didn't see what the decision was.
But yeah, it's interesting anyway. That's why, like, all I'm proposing is that us as individuals have more authority than we think we do in relationship to these outside agencies. And what's interesting is you start to look at what they like. They seem to be so imposing because they're faking it. And then when you realize that there's little questions that bring out the cracks in their system, and that once and they can't recover from those cracks, and they know it, and so they don't try to impose their shit on people who know how to reveal their cracks. But in order to, I think of it, it's almost like if you want to live in a free society, you better be, aware of those cracks in the game, because if not, you're a slave, and they're going to treat you like one. They're going to let you identify as that collateral in the national debt. They're going to let you destroy yourself. But it all starts with a philosophical outlook of the idea that, and think of it, it says it on the money and it says it in the courtroom. In God we trust. The only missing piece is the actual individual. It's like, where do you live? Well, how could you live anywhere realistically but inside your body? And if you're going to say you live at 123 B Street, you might be insane. But your citizen could have a residence at a local, you know what I mean? And that's okay. It's like kind of like, it's that duality shit of like, and it doesn't mix, the oil and the water. The sky looks round, but the earth looks flat. It's an infinite plane contained in a cosmic egg. Yes, very good. I've been listening. Very nice.